LG's first shot at a 6-incher, the G Pro 2 introduces top-shelf specs in new design wrapping, placing it in direct competition with this puppy here. This is Daniel from Phone Arena with a direct comparison between the G Pro 2 and Samsung's Galaxy Note 3. Both phablets are very similar in hardware, yet the G Pro 2 one-ups Note 3 with a camera that features optical image stabilization and a tad larger 5.9-inch display versus the 5.7-inch one on Samsung's Biggie. Will these be enough to offset the extra functionality brought on by the S Pen stylus integrated in the Note 3 here? Let's find out. The G Pro 2 is built in the design tradition that commenced with the 5.2-inch LG G2, where the bezel area is kept to a minimum. Something similar is happening here, and the Pro 2 is more compact than other 6-inchers such as the HTC One Max or the Nokia Lumia 1520. In fact, the G Pro 2 offers one of the best screen-to-phone size ratios at the whopping 77%. G Pro 2 is still a tad taller and wider than the Note 3, but bear in mind that it carries a 0.2-inch larger display while weighing almost the same. The fight which phone is more compact than the other is rather relative when we cross the 5.5-inch line though. Both phablets are cumbersome to carry in your pocket or use with one hand. The G Pro 2 and Note 3 have removable back covers, swappable batteries and expandable storage. Samsung's phablet features the infamous stitched leather design on the back, while LG introduced a new canvas-like cover on the back of the G Pro 2 and sparkly front for a shot at something different. We prefer LG's finish as it provides more traction for your fingers, but those are a matter of personal taste anyway. LG put the power lock key and the volume rocker on the back of the G Pro 2. That's a feature which debuted with the G2, and we have to say that this placement is perfect for phablets. You don't need to fiddle with your big screen handset to feel the keys anymore, risking to drop it. Simply stretch your index finger a bit and there they are. The side and back keys of both handsets offer deep travel and good tactile feedback. Note 3 has something that the G Pro 2 doesn't offer, an S Pen stylus tucked in the lower right corner. It offers an extra input option for drawing, handwriting, clipping, annotating, or simply doodling on your phone screen with more precision than your fingers. The screen is where it's at with those phablets, and the G Pro 2 stops just shy of the 6-inch status, offering a 5.9-inch diagonal. The Note 3 sports a slightly smaller 5.7-inch panel. Both are with Full HD 1080p resolution. The screen technologies are rather different though. Samsung uses Super AMOLED, while LG bets on IPS LCD. With the OLED mobile screen technology, we are used to observing cold color temperatures, oversaturation and brightness below the average, for instance. Note 3 is not an exception here, but the LCD panel on the G Pro 2 also has its quirks. Our display quality tests showed that its color temperature is almost as cold as the one on the Note 3, so both are far from the reference point. When it comes to saturation, however, the G Pro 2 is almost on the mark, while the Note 3 is way off and shows extreme levels of oversaturation, especially with the green set. When it comes to peak brightness levels, we measured 420 nits on the G Pro 2, while the AMOLED panel scored lower at 360. Don't let the high brightness fool you though, as outdoors in a real-life test the Note 3 showed a bit better visibility, likely due to lower reflectance ratio. The screen on the Galaxy Note 3 can be operated with gloves on in a high sensitivity mode too, which comes in handy for those with cold climates. Samsung's phone also offers several display modes, ranging from dynamic, which is with flashy, oversaturated colors, to professional photo, which is arguably more accurate. Note 3 offers Samsung's TouchWiz Nature UX layered on top of Android Jelly Bean, but the KitKat update is already on the way, while the G Pro 2 ships with 4.4 KitKat out of the box and offers its own interface overlay. Big screens are very conducive to multitasking, and both Samsung and LG take advantage of that. Samsung has its multi-window mode, which splits the display in two and shows two applications at once. LG strikes back with a dual window mode, called by holding the back key, which is basically the same thing, just that the apps to choose from appear across the display instead of as a sidebar. The G Pro 2 offers LG's set of Q-Slide apps, which can float two windowed apps on top of everything else you're doing underneath. The same functionality but on steroids exists in the Note 3. You can open up to 5 applications in pop-up view, windowed mode that floats above every home or menu screen underneath, aiding multitasking significantly and reminding of desktop windows. Both handsets offer one-handed mode for the on-screen keyboard, dialer and calculator in the case of the Note 3, which can shrink those left or right on the display so that you can reach every number or symbol with your thumb only. Samsung and LG, however, go one step further and offer the ultimate one-handed operation mode. It scales down the whole interface left or right, so you can make every screen shrink to the size of a 4.5-inch phone or whatever suits your hand size, while the rest of the display remains blank. This way you can easily use the phone with one hand for operating any app, while carrying groceries with the other, for instance. LG calls it mini mode, while Samsung just dubs it one-handed operation for all screens. LG has a few extra options that Samsung doesn't offer, like swiping the card app away with 3 fingers, then bringing it back on the same state when needed again. G Pro 2 also offers Knock Code, an expansion of the knock-on mode of the G2 that lets you unlock the screen with 2 taps on the display. With Knock Code now, you can power on and unlock the G Pro 2 by tapping on the display using a combination of 2 to 8 taps in a sequence. With the Note 3, you have to click the power lock key first and then input your security pin on gesture to unlock it. Note 3 has one advantage, however, and it's very significant: the S Pen stylus. Against the precision input of this stylus, LG can only offer the QMemo mode, which lets you doodle and annotate on the screen directly, but with your finger only. LG G Pro 2 is powered by a quad-core 2.3 GHz Snapdragon 800 processor. Galaxy Note 3 has a version with the same Snapdragon processor for LTE markets, and one with Samsung's own octa-core 1.9 GHz Exynos 5 Octa for the GSM crowd. Both handsets offer the generous 3 GB of RAM, so you can rest assured that all those dual, multi and floating windows will rarely feel underpowered. Still, we notice that the 4th and 5th app in pop-up view mode on the Note 3 took that sweet time to open, but it is unlikely that you will want more than 2 or 3 of those cluttering a 5.7-inch display anyway, so that's not an issue. The G Pro 2 has 16 and 32 GB versions, while the Note 3 starts you off with 32 GB of internal memory and a 64 GB version too. Both phablets offer microSD card slots for storage expansion. In addition to the default Chrome browser in Android, the phones have their own browsing apps, which let you sideload Adobe Flash if you need that functionality. LG offers a dual browser view, which opens the link you tap in another browser window. There are no issues with zooming, scrolling, or panning around on the phablets. The huge screens, coupled with the high pixel density, turn both the Note 3 and the G Pro 2 into meme browsing machines. Samsung's S Pen stylus, however, again brings something extra to the table, letting you easily preview links or clip content, for example. The internet is brought to you by fast multi-band LTE radios, courtesy of the Snapdragon chipset on the phablets, or comes with up to 42 megabits per second HSPA plus download speeds on GSM networks. Needless to say, there is a full suite of other radios too, and even an infrared sensor at the top of the phones. The IR Blaster is managed by the QRemote app on the G Pro 2, which can control your TV, home stereo or air conditioner directly from the lock screen if needed. Its basic controls can be conveniently located in the status bar too, while Samsung's Watch On app that controls the IR Blaster can only be launched as a standalone. As for wired connectivity, the Note 3 has the upper hand, as it sports support capable of USB 3.0 speeds. Note 3's gallery offers split-screen view for easier navigation between folders and content, as well as plenty of built-in editing options enhanced by the S Pen stylus, drawing and annotation abilities. G Pro 2 also offers plenty of ways to edit and add color effects to your pictures, as well as an option to pick several photos and videos and make an automatic collage out of them. The music players on both handsets haven't changed for a while in terms of the interface design, but they're highly functional with a number of song categorization options and plenty of equalizer presets or sound modes. LG G Pro 2 offers a strong loudspeaker, which our tests showed to be only slightly stronger than the one on the Note 3 though, despite that LG touts that it's 30% stronger than what it was in the G Pro, for example. One of the huge advantages of having a phablet appears when it comes to watching videos, and both handsets don't disappoint. Video playback with the stock players lets you run most major formats in up to 1080p resolution. and the clips look gorgeous on the giant displays. LG one-ups Samsung by having a DivX licensing, while the Note 3 can't run this format with the stock player, so you have to download a third-party one from the Play Store. There are 13 megapixel camera units on the back of the phablets, accompanied by a single LED flash. Samsung and LG use very similar camera units, but LG put an optical image stabilization mechanism around it, which helps avoid blurry shots in low light and produces steadier video footage. Note 3 doesn't have a stabilization module, but rather relies on software-only solution. Both phablets offer plenty of shooting modes, such as HDR or panorama, as well as color effects in an easy-to-operate menu. There's barely a camera option in one of the handsets that isn't mimicked in the other, just as they are going tit-for-tat in the main interface. LG offers something new in the form of the Magic Focus option, which takes 5 photos with different focusing from macro to infinity and lets you choose the desired level with a slider before saving or combines them all. Photos from the G Pro 2 came out a tad more detailed and sharper looking than the ones from the Note 3. Both cameras have accurate measurement in most cases, delivering well exposed, true to life pictures. Color representation is pretty accurate on both sides of the aisle too. Indoors, the performance of the two phones is also on par. The photos of the two have similar amount of detail, but the noise reduction filter of the G Pro 2 is slightly more aggressive, delivering less noisy photos at the cost of some loss of fine detail. The optical image stabilization on LG's phone should allow for slightly slower shutter speeds without worrying for handshake blur. It helps in these times when you want to capture the environment's natural colors instead of blasting the flash. Talking about flashes, LG touts its so-called natural flash. Each photo taken with it is processed by combining 2 photos, one with a flash and one without, to offer more balanced color temperature. Think of it as HDR, but for delivering better colors. It really looks better and more natural in our low-light test photos, but we cannot say that the difference is huge. These photos are slightly sharper on the G Pro 2, which is pretty nice. Still, we wish that the phone's flash was more powerful and evenly distributed, as now it is not much better than the one on the Note 3. LG's phablet has a huge advantage in video recording, as the stabilization system does an excellent job compensating for even harsh hand movements. The footage looks like it is made from a tripod, even if you're walking around with the phablet instead of standing still. Both handsets offer 4K video recording, but the G Pro 2 records it with 60 frames per second, while the Note 3 makes do with 30. LG's phablet can also shoot 720p HD video with 120 frames per second, used for slow motion footage. The phablet shoots pretty exemplary video samples, smooth and detailed with no visible artifacts. The G Pro 2 again underexposes the scene one notch in its recordings, while the Note 3 footage stays more in sync with the real deal scene in comparison. LG G Pro 2 and Samsung Galaxy Note 3 are arguably the best that the Android phablet world can currently offer, yet choosing one over the other is very clear-cut here. At first blush they sport an almost identical spec sheet, very close performance and similar design solutions with removable back covers. LG also met every major feature Samsung's TouchWiz interface, including the multi-window mode. Still, there is a handful of major differences that will easily tip the scales for you. The optical image stabilization tech on the G Pro 2 results in much better low-light photos and shake-free videos compared to the Note 3. Samsung also has an Ace up its sleeve with the S Pen stylus, which offers an extra input option that is more precise than your fingertips. However, anecdotal evidence and our own polls come to show that only a small percentage of Note owners use the stylus on a regular basis, while most use their phone cameras very often. Given that the pricing of the two phablets is very similar, the choice here boils down to whether you prefer a better camera with your phablet or the extra input options brought along by Samsung's S Pen stylus. It's as simple as that. This was a video comparison between the LG G Pro 2 and Samsung Galaxy Note 3. For more information about these and other phablets, you can visit us at phonearena.com.